caution people, particularly if you want to move abroad, is understand the tax structure. Because if you do want to have some of these things like maintaining your U.S. passport, you do have to have taxes. So I would just be interested. Let's say I'm a solopreneur, I'm hiring a talent from the African continent. Is that taxable? How does that go? Like, I mean, is it just a freelance opportunity and everybody pays their own taxes? How does that actually go for people that are interested in using your platform? I'm
So,
just curious. And once again, if you don't know, then I mean, you don't have to give it all away. But
no, it's completely fine. So we're a Delaware C corp, right? So like we're subject to all of Uncle Sam's taxes and everything, but we have a subsidiary in Zimbabwe, and how I envision it working going forward is, the countries that we are active in, as we formalize this thing, because still we're pre-seed, we're very early in the process, but as we formalize it, we'll have subsidiaries in each country. To deal with the regulations and the payment rules there. Right now, we're just kind of hacking things together, but eventually we'll have to approach that, and that's fine. I mean, on our end, we have to pay taxes as a company to the United States government, and it's helped us in some ways in terms of our fundraising and stuff like that. But on the payouts, right now, it's just informal for the most part, because different countries have different rules. Again, like. And this is why we have to fix these things in anticipation for the future. So like our Zimbabwean freelancers, we can't pay them by PayPal, right? Like we have to actually do bank wire transfers.
Say it again. This is such a hindrance. It is the transfer of money, the flow of money. I think this is one of the major challenges for getting people of the diaspora to link and do businesses, in my mind.
And that's why Upwork and Fiverr, and I hate to like drop these companies because like they're huge companies and they're making a lot of money, but that's why they have not really had a chance to penetrate Africa because of the payment issues in certain countries. And, it's too much to deal with. And we want to solve that because, again, I feel like if we don't do it, somebody else is going to come along and try to do it. And you have that neo-colonial, system that can be built from this, right? Like you're building it on the back of African labor. We've seen this movie before. Like we watched this happen multiple times.
Time after time.
It takes someone who has a connection, who has a cultural connection. We're a completely Pan-African startup. We got a Black American, we got a Zimbabwean, and we're open to recruit across the diaspora. We want to build a Pan-African team, but it takes people who are culturally competent. Like you said, not saying these people, right? Like those things takes people to understand the culture that's underneath to actually build something that respects everyone on both sides. We don't have to exploit people, and that's not what we want to do. We don't exploit anyone. We want everyone to.
I was gonna say, let me jump in here because like I want to kind of explain kind of how the ecosystem works and to give better insight into how this is kind of like mutually beneficial in a few different ways. So I run a foundation, Ingressive for Good. We are basically looking at SS3 graduates, which in the American sense would be high school graduates, right? And then we look at those ones who have entered a university and we try to start working with them to, as early as possible, start getting them to connect to technical skill sets. Because if we don't, Africa cannot participate in the fourth industrial revolution, and we get left behind in a way where it's not going to be like slavery with chains. It's just going to be like we can't access anything unless they give it to us. Right. But with that being said, we're in a position now where the schools are not positioned to equip people with the skills of today. So what Ingressive comes in and does is that we provide resources, training, access, just kind of opening up their horizons to basically get talent to a certain place. From there, what I try to do is get them an internship, because what we find is that we do have to use online courses to train people. It just helps cement some of the different things that they would go through. And then what you find is that they teach a lot of theoretical and they don't have the capacity to teach practical things in the school systems here. Like you can learn robotics.
Well, not to interrupt you, Sean, but I just want to point out several things. Several things you're mentioning, they don't seem like they're unique to Nigeria.
Exactly.
When I just hear you talk about this, I look at that you even have this issue with Black people in America, and I think that school being online right now is a key indicator that Black people in general are going to miss out on the fourth industrial revolution because we don't have the access to internships, tech skills, this sort of higher level labor. So when I look at it, it's not something only really central to Nigeria. This seems to be a global problem that everybody in the diaspora experiences. Roger, how do you guys deal with that? Because I think Sean is making some really interesting points, and I know that you've partnered with Ingressive as well. So how do you think, Roman, you're sort of dealing with this as an organization?
So I'll tackle that in a couple of ways. So in the States, you're right? So like here in the States, there's been a huge push over the last 5 to 10 years to get more Black people in STEM careers, right? And while that is great, again, we know that business and commerce is really generated from building businesses. Getting a great job is always a good for, and it works for a lot of people. But if we're not owning anything, we become a commodity at that point. We don't really have any power based on, even what Sean has been saying. So our thinking here is that, even though we might not be building all of these systems for the Black American freelancer or the Black American professional, what we want to do is help the Black American entrepreneur, because that's a space, like you said before, where it's mostly solopreneurs. The tech space has been completely devoid of African American founders, and not because of lack of skill or lack of ingenuity or anything like that. We just can't get the funding. So we look at this, helping people twofold. In the States, we're helping people actually build these enterprises and build these businesses that would probably die because they couldn't find affordable help, or they couldn't navigate, the Upworks and the Fiverrs of the world, or, they blew a bunch of money hiring a web developer in India, it didn't have any competency with, right? They didn't have any communication. They had communication issues. So our goal is to not only empower the freelancer, the professional service provider on the continent, but here in the States to actually give people a fighting chance to build these startups and build these businesses. Most of our clients are technical startups, again, but we do have like mom and pop shops that reach out. We do have nonprofit organizations and government entities and things like that reach out. But for the most part, it's the startup founder, that solopreneur founder that we talked about, who needs that.